Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, the UFC Fight Night in Qatar was pretty good. The UFC lightweight champion has options, but now there might be a clear-cut favorite. And PFL has 4 dates and 2 big matchups to kick off 2026. We'll discuss that. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's here in Las Vegas. Down in the 305, it's Danny Segura, El Bigote. And in Toronto, the Great White North, it's Mike Bond, the MMA media titan. Guys, hit that like button right now. Just as I'm getting going, helps to trigger the algorithm, and I would greatly appreciate it. So, I think Arman Tsarukyan, guys, is out of the doghouse now. Big win for the Georgian-born Armenian who grew up in Russia. I think I got that right. Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett can't be feeling good right about now, Mike Bond. Or am I wrong about the inevitable Topuria-Tsarukyan matchup that's starting to fester?
I mean, I don't know if there would be concerned. I really don't know. It's hard to get a read on this situation. Obviously, Arman has done himself no favors in a lot of different spots. I mean, the weigh-in headbutt, which I'm sure we'll get to, another example of just kind of poor decision-making that could lead to bad consequences. Thankfully, nothing happened there, and the fight went on. But he's done, I guess, as much as you can, like weighed in as the backup, kept active, doing some grappling matches, and then comes to this fight and it's completely one-sided, almost a near flawless performance from Tsarukyan. So I guess as good as he can do, given what he's being presented and the opportunities. I just don't know if the UFC already has its plans in place, if they want to do this Ilia Topuria Paddy Pimblett fight, which is kind of being the strong rumor for a few months now. Not sure why it's announced. Maybe they're waiting for something bigger, a certain moment to announce like the first Paramount main event in some of these cards. But I don't know if this changes circumstance that may have already been set for Arman Tsarukyan here.
If they were to call you, Mike, and said, we did away with Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, don't ask us why, but we really love your matchmaker pieces on Junkie. Help us decide, man, who should be the number one contender? Who should fight Topuria in this new CBS Paramount Plus era?
It's funny because I don't think my answers changed from the Monday after UFC 317 when Ilia Topuria won the title, and we pretty much had these same 3 potential candidates. I said if you want the best fight, the most high-level, intriguing MMA matchup, it is Arman Tsarukyan and Ilia Topuria. That's the most high-level fight. If you want the thing that would be the best sell, quote-unquote, for like a Paramount main event spot to open up this new era, some beef, some highlights, trash talk, a big press conference, all that stuff, it's Paddy Pimblett. And then no disrespect to Justin Gaethje with this part of the answer, but I feel like if you want to keep this Topuria train rolling, another knockout over a legend of the sport, have these back-to-back fights against super high-profile names, I think Justin Gaethje is the one in there who you would maybe want to throw if you want to make Ilia Topuria look best. And again, that's all due respect with Justin. So those are your 3 potential options there. I would love to see the Arman fight because, again, I'm here to see the most high-level MMA possible. Give me that fight, but I still feel like in my gut they're going to go with Paddy Pimblett for all the reasons I said behind him.
All right. Danny Segura, how about you? A reaction to Tsarukyan and his main event win over Dan Hooker, and then do you agree with Mike, the way he laid it out?
He reminded us all on Saturday that he is the number one contender, right? Like he hadn't fought in a while. I know his face has been around given the fact that he was supposed to fight in January. He was a backup opponent, but we really almost hadn't seen him just as long as we hadn't seen Dan Hooker, almost like it was like a year or something like that. And again, he reminded everybody that he is the number one contender and he is easily the best fighter in that division outside of the champion, but maybe even better than champion. I guess we'll find out if those two end up fighting. So yeah, just completely taken away by how good this guy actually is. And part of me kind of felt a little bit nostalgic about Islam Makhachev versus Tsarukyan, the rematch falling apart literally a day before. I think I just realized on Saturday how good that matchup was. I knew it was good, don't get me wrong, but after watching Tsarukyan, fight and do what he did almost back-to-back with Islam's performance and making history there by winning a second title, it really hurt to lose that bout. But Let's see what happens here. I do think it's going to be Paddy Pimblett next. That is, I guess, kind of like the best of both worlds, both for the UFC, for the division, for Ilia Topuria as well, because you're getting a guy here that, might not have the same legendary status as Justin Gaethje, but it's a guy that's quite popular and big. So you're making already a huge fight. And at the same time, he is deserving. So you are somewhat taking care of the contenders line. So we'll see. But certainly the most deserving guy there, the biggest threat to Ilia Topuria, is Arman Tsarukyan. The timeline kind of hurts him because we do kind of suspect that he'll be, and I'm talking about Ilia Topuria here, he'll be opening the first numbered event on the CBS Paramount era, and if that's the case, he's got a quick turnaround to do. So let's see what happens, but I think they go with Paddy Pimblett.
All right, how about you guys? Let's get a reaction from you on Tsarukyan's win, and who do you think might be next?
I think it was just a 10 performance from Tsarukyan. I mean, might want to board up the doors on the doghouse, right? Let him out of there. Move him into a penthouse, because that's the fight that I think a lot of people want to see. And I think it's you look at Dan Hooker and the game that he brings. Yeah, he's lost before, but I mean, he gives people good fights, and this one he just got smothered from the get-go. I like the way that Ilia Topuria strategizes for his fights and how he implements that strategy. He does a great job, and I think that's what you have to do if you're going to fight somebody like Ilia Topuria. So that little threesome that we're talking about, I have him ahead of all those guys, and I think performance-wise, I think he has the better chance. But it's, like my colleagues just said, it really comes down to what the UFC wants to be this week, right? You want to be a sport, you want to be entertainment. You want to be entertainment, I get it, Paddy Pimblett. Like, do we want to risk that possibly not happening? Although I think Paddy's getting better with every fight, man. And the heat that he's kind of created with Justin Gaethje, it's not really that bad of a consolation prize. I mean, I think you'd still probably get your shot. No matter what happens, I think everybody, the fans, will be happy. But I think Arman Tsarukyan's your guy.
I hope all four of them fight on the same card, but it might be tough because Tsarukyan just fought. Then again, he didn't take too much damage. I thought Hooker could have given him a better fight. Jumping for that ghillie was too soon. I saw him work out of some, good grappling exchanges with Machado Garry. So I thought he was going to hang around longer and then maybe pick up some momentum as the fight went. But I can't take anything away from Tsarukyan. I thought he was a numbskull, though. That headbutt was, oof. That could have been bad news in many ways. But by the time they got to Saturday, I think he erased them, and I see a big push online for him versus Topuria, but we'll see, because I really thought they were gonna maybe lead things off with a bang, like they say, Pimblett, Topuria. Who knows? But guys, I think it's official. He's out of the doghouse, or will the answer be whether he gets the title shot or not? What do you guys think about that headbutt? And he's just always in that mix. Something almost kicked off with Garry and Chimaev. I think in this instance, it looked like Tsarukyan was just like, hey, come on, let's move on. And then there was also a quick Topuria-Tsarukyan exchange that I thought could have blown up once you put your hands on someone, but he shook it off. But is he out of the doghouse, Mike?
As I said, I guess we'll find out on the next thing. He's done everything he can do. He weighed in as the backup. He kept active with grappling matches. He showed up in the main event, made weight, and won the fight dominantly. So I would hope so, but we know the UFC and Dana White are not hesitant to hold a grudge for maybe much longer than other people would in different circumstances. So who am I to say?
Did he ever do that anger management? Remember, anger management would cut the suspension down by 3 months. I think this was leading into last year's planned main event against.
Yeah, no, I don't think he hit. I don't think he did, and I don't think Sean Strickland did either for his case.
Damn. All right. Danny, were you gonna say something?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So, what's next for Dan Hooker? I mean, this guy's popular, and he doesn't seem to mind any type of matchup, even the ones that aren't fan friendly. Like I mentioned. Gamrot, Tsarukyan, those are really, really tough for the tall striker, who's very upright and wants to just stand and bang. What would you do with him, Danny?
Yeah, I think he kind of, this was sort of his Hail Mary to, get a title shot, right? He knew that this was a high stakes, but if he were to win, I mean, he'd be skipping the line, as he said, in the lead up to the fight. But obviously that clearly didn't play out for him. And I think by his call out of Renato Moicano, we kind of see where he's going. And I think that's the direction that he should go. I believe he's like, 34, 35. I think his title contender days are over, but he's still a good fighter. And I think fights like Renato Moicano, maybe a Max Holloway one, who knows? There are some fun matchups for him. So I like the Moicano as a bounce back spot. I'm not saying that he'll win that fight, but it's certainly winnable for him. I think it's competitive. So why not? And it's got some heat, right? Moicano has had some things to say about Dan Hooker. So I think that one makes sense.
I like it. Folks, you can participate in the show. You can leave a comment there in our chat. You can do it through Facebook or through YouTube. A couple there that I see. It's on paper. Says that's a banger thumbnail. That's a shout out to Komakazi on our staff. He does those every week. Quay Stefan, big shout out to you. You're here every week. Hustle Bones is excited that Mike Bond is back. He says, let's effing go. Profitable card is what Jorik Vartanov says in the chat. I'm not sure what that meant, but it did look like it was a good crowd and maybe they had a good gate. Steve Williams, shout out to you as well. All right, real quick, I skipped this one. Who wants to take this one? Just kind of start talking. Is Tsarukyan the biggest threat to Ilia Topuria? Out of all the names we did discuss, who's the one that can, either even out the odds or just is his biggest threat?
Yeah, I think he's the biggest threat for sure. It's the way, his size, the way he uses it, his striking, the leverage, everything that he does, I think he would be the biggest threat right now. But give it one more fight. I mean, Paddy Pimblett's improved a lot. I think right now Tsarukyan seems like he's in his prime. I think the other two guys, we have minor question marks, but they're still question marks, right?
You guys agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that was, again, a great main event, especially for Tsarukyan, clear-cut winner. Good stuff there. Let's go to the co-main event. Ian Machado Garry shuts down Belal Muhammad. Goes about a year ago. Remember, he took that L to Shavkat Rakhmonov. And those L's in crowded divisions, they can set you back sometimes years, plural. At that time, Belal Muhammad was the champ. Now we've been through two champs. And Gary's kind of almost the number one contender. I mean, he can make a case for that. So a lot can change in 1 year. Or do you have him behind Kamaru Usman? Or is there another name out there? Sort this out for me, Goes. First, your reaction to the fight, and then what this does for him.
Well, I mean, this dude, I don't know that he's the future. I think he's the present right now. I mean, a lot of us have been talking about him, his performance. Say what you will about Belal Muhammad, whether you think he's declining or whatever, he's still a tough out. And I thought he fought a somewhat decent fight. There were some things that he's still doing that kind of bothered me. But one of the recipes for success in the sport has always been the biggest frame at the smallest weight class. And this dude is massive for his weight class. He uses every inch, every pound to his advantage. And you look at some of the fighters who are at the top, and as good as some of them are, they don't really have plan Bs. And this guy's shown us that he has a plan A and a plan B. He's very versatile. He pays attention to his own deficiencies, it seemed like, from fight to fight. And then he addresses and attacks the other guy's deficiency. So I think great execution on his part. I can't say enough good things about him. It's just he's kind of in a weird situation right now with everything going on at the top. You can kind of make a case for just about anyone. I like that Morales kind of is willing to take his time. I think that's actually a smart move on his part. This dude's a gangster, man. I mean, closed mouths don't get fed, right? And he's out there calling his next shot. I think it could be him, but we just don't ever really have very much clarification on Usman and what exactly they want to do with him. I could see him coming in for the steal, and I don't even know that would be a bad thing. But I think Garry laid it out perfectly. The fight and what he did on the mic was just a 10+ performance for me.
When you got that legendary status like Usman, I wonder if your age almost helps you, because if they're gonna give you that last run, here it is, right? Buckley was the test. He passed it with flying colors. Now what you gonna do? But that guy grabbed the mic. He looked right at it. Made a good case for himself, Mike Bond. Ian Garry, his performance, reaction to that, and what do you think as far as who's next for Islam Makhachev?
Yeah, he sure maximized the moment in terms of the interview. The performance was pretty solid. I mean, it definitely didn't equate to everything he said pre-fight. I mean, that happens all the time, so I can't hurt him too much there, but he is having a bit of a consistent issue of like over promising and under delivering, right? He told me if Belal stands with him for a round, he's going to knock him out and not get touched. Clearly not the case, but still a very quality win. I mean, if we're stacking it all up, obviously I've kind of said coming out of UFC 322, I want to see the Michael Morales fight, but Morales beat Sean Brady. We know Belal Muhammad beat Sean Brady. He beats Belal Muhammad. Maybe you could say that puts him a little ahead, not to do too much MMA math there, but certainly not as impressive. His win over Belal as Morales is over Brady. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn here. I would be okay with basically any direction except Usman, as like mean as that is. I could see them giving it to him just because look at this division. Everyone in that kind of era has been phased out. Bilal's probably going to drop out of the top 5 now. Colby Covington's gone, Masvidal, et cetera, these guys that occupied the top 5 for quite a while. Usman's the last one of that era, so to speak, who's even in position to get a title fight right now. So if you want to drag that out for one more fight, I could see them doing that. It's kind of got shades of like, you know, John Jones wanting Stipe before he's out of the division, although Usman with his win over Buckley is, you know, more worthy, quote unquote. But just so many good fights for Islam Makhachev right now. I want to see him test himself against the new era and enhance that legacy. The name Usman on the resume might be good, but I think we could all agree like Shavkat is a better win, might age better, who knows. So it's a really tough one. I love that we have the options here. I guess I'll stick with my guns and say Morales, but Garry, I don't think he's undeserving. And if he got the shot, I would be perfectly fine with it.
Do you know, Mike, what Shavkat's future might be? He's been out a whole year. I've heard something about an injury setback, but then he said no to that online. I don't know what that means, you know, like as far as like, hey, it's not another whole year or I'll be fighting soon. Do you know anything?
I know they had talked about putting him in a fight in December at one point. I don't know why that didn't happen, if there was another setback or they just couldn't find an appropriate opponent or whatever the case may be. I don't know for sure, but yeah, it's been off for a year, and I think he was off for a year before that as well. So it's like one fight in 2 years. Not going to get it done. I agree that he is very worthy and he's right there. Of course, he has the win over Garry, but with what Islam said, I think his quote this morning, like it's hard to give a guy a title shot off a year layoff. Not that it hasn't happened before. Belal got his shot in this division after a year layoff. Tyron Woodley got his shot in this division after a year layoff. Both won the belts. It wouldn't be unprecedented, but just given all the guys there right now, I would rather see someone who's been more active and consistent and let Shavkat get a win and build this fight, man. I think Shavkat versus Islam is one of the best fights the UFC can make. I'd love to see it when it's, you know, at its peak level of promotion.
All right, Danny, your thoughts on the fight and how would you chip in terms of sorting out the top of the division, who should be next and who would fall behind them?
Yeah, the welterweight division is very similar to the 155 division, right? Like they're both having similar problems, and they're good problems in the sense that, you know, you have a long list of contenders to choose from, and then you have a very appealing and dominant champion. So these are all good problems to have. I did think that Ian Garry did well, got the job done, but I don't necessarily think that he, you know, made his case 100% to be next, right? Like the fight was very competitive. He didn't get a finish. You know, it's hard to, you know, be in a not competitive fight and get a finish over Belal Muhammad. I understand that, but you just kind of compare it to what Michael Morales did, and, you know, the enthusiasm of seeing Michael Morales fight Islam Makhachev, in my opinion, is just way higher than Ian Garry. Plus, Ian Garry, like just a couple fights ago, he had lost to Shavkat. So I do think there's some work to be done, and Michael Morales is unbeaten, 19-0. I disagree with his comments on him being a flash in the pan. I think Michael Morales is way more than that, and he's proven. This is not a guy that's just in a small win streak or got 1 or 2 good wins and all of a sudden, you know, there's interest around him. The guy's been putting in work for quite some time and has a very impressive resume. So I'd like for it to be Morales. I understand why it would be maybe Kamaru. I wouldn't hate if it's Kamaru, to be honest. Both Ian Garry and Michael are very young, so I feel like, yeah, you'd kind of been doing them wrong sporting-wise, like merit-wise. But at the same time, you won't be like killing their careers, right? Like they got plenty of time. Whereas Kamaru, he looked good against Buckley, and if we're ever going to see him in a high-profile fight, like a title fight, it's got to be now. So I kind of understand it. Don't love it, but I don't necessarily hate it too much. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But if I have to put a grade on Ian Gary's performance, I would say it was a solid B. Like he got the job done, but it was an A+ like Michael Morales. So I don't know if I like his chances of being next.
Basically, he lacked the finish in your
Yeah.
eyes. Okay. You know, it's another scary thing is Dana White saying, I think it was pre UFC 322 or post, doesn't make a difference. I'm trying to build the best card possible for the White House, he said. And then that, of course, brings up Makhachev Topuria, you know, but I think Topuria will get one in, whereas I don't think Makhachev will. So therefore, I don't think he'll derail any of what we're saying here. But man, they got all kinds of possibilities at 170 for sure. J-Do in the chat says, can't stand Gary's personality, but yeah, I guess he's pretty damn well-rounded, like Danny be saying. I guess Danny don't be tripping. So he's saying something nice about you there. Quay in the chat is saying, I literally forgot about Shavkat until this past weekend. It's true, man, when you're gone like that. And he owns a win over Gary. Imagine that. Gary owns a win over Practice. So there's a lot of, you know, positioning here, a lot of elbow throwing. We'll see who they decide. Hustle Bones suggests Islam versus Kamaru, Morales versus Gary, Shavkat versus Morales. Well, he forgot he doubled up on Morales there. Unless he's thinking Morales can pull off a Waldo and fight twice in 1 month.
Probably.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I don't think he can because of the weight.
And just a thought too on a Kamaru Usman title shot. I believe if he gets it, unless his ranking improved, he would be the second lowest fighter to get a UFC title shot, number 8, I think, behind Steve Ursig, who is number 11 against Pantoja. So tough sell when there's all the guys ahead of him that are undefeated, have 1 loss, etc., etc.
Wasn't Dan Henderson ranked like number 13?
Ooh, maybe that's possible. I was just looking at my list here. This might have been the list of people who won. Either way, not great.
Yeah.
Jason Mato, whatever. He's coming through Facebook. Good to see that. He says, I think Gary deserves a title shot over Morales. Guys, real quick, what's next for Belal? Again, there's so many names out there, and he is a former champ. So you got a name goes for somebody you'd like to see Belal face. Also, can he get back to the title? I think that's fair. With Usman, he said yes earlier this year when he beat Buckley. With Edwards, he recently lost, I think, a 3rd straight fight. People are saying, nope, his days are done. What about Belal? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, with Belal, I just feel like it's such a long climb back. It's not going to be easy. It's not so much. I mean, it's killer after killer. There's no easy way back up to the top. And at the same time, I mean, how long has he said the UFC just kind of doesn't like me? They're not going to make it easy either. So, unfortunately, I don't think he can make it back.
And who would you give him next? I guess Usman's kind of a slam dunk, although he doesn't seem interested
what
in
everybody
it.
wants.
If Usman doesn't get the title shot.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't know if he had his own camera crew.
You gotta do if he doesn't get the shot.
Exactly.
You got to make that fight, man. But it just doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah,
it's tough for Belal. I don't know if even if he went out there and knocked out Ian Gary with the first punch in the first round and then got on the mic and said, Islam Makhachev, I've changed my mind. I hate you. Screw the factor training partners. I want to fight you now. Still don't think they'd give him the shot over some of these other guys. So it's tough sledding for Belal.
Yeah, he had some well-timed takedowns that Ian Gary shook off. A couple others weren't as good, but still, that guy was trying the wrestling. He was trying to strike. I think he waited a whole round to get to the wrestling part. Maybe that did him. And when I saw him just throwing hands, I'm like, bro, that's not going to get it done. It's and I think he's a 5-round fighter. He should lean into 5-round fighters the rest of his career because I think that's where he can break some guys down. But I give the flowers to Machado Garry. He did what he needed to do. The rest of UFC Qatar or Qatar, I looked into it, goes, you can say Qatar or Qatar. They're both right. It's just all in the pronunciation.
I like Qatar better.
I like Qatar as well better.
Yeah. Let's discuss some of the rest of the moments on this card. Danny Segura, Volkan Ozdemir is not done. He's had his title shot. He's taken a few L's since then. He's 36, but he looked great on Saturday. Your thoughts on the way he dissected his opponent like a skilled surgeon? It was a beautiful KO. React.
Yeah, very nice KO. It was a result that like I kind of did see coming, given that Alonso Menifield's like chin and sometimes striking defense is not that great. And say what you want about Ozdemir, like sure he's not a title contender, but the dude is always very crisp, very clean, very technical, very sharp in his striking, and that power is still very much there. So it's crazy to think that this guy challenged for the belt against Daniel Cormier. That seems just like such a long time ago, just a completely different era. Yet he's still out here, somewhat of a title contender. 4-1 in his last 3-1 in his last 4 performances. And he's got a win over Guskov, who's killing it. Johnny Walker, Alonso Menifield. It's not bad. I don't think it's crazy for him to get a title shot at some point. Obviously not next, but I think this win kind of kept his title hopes alive. He's still game. It's a very weak division. If he gets a solid win over a former champion, a good name, you can't really rule him out for making another title run. So good for him, because I think this was probably the better result for the division, and the division needs names. The division needs finishers, and yeah, good for Ozdemir, who's a familiar face and doing well.
Boy, then the knockouts where they're just starfished, and there's a walk-off, those are a thing of beauty. But I'm telling you, when someone gets lit up against the fence and they're almost out before they can fall, like the fence is holding them up and they start to fold, those are things of beauty too, man. That was a great KO by Volkan. He started off with the knees, and then he just threw those bombs at the guy. Very, very impressive. How about Oralbai versus Hermansson? Reaction there, Mike. He moved up. Hermansson moved down. Oralbai has done welterweight before, and then he did lightweight, then he did catchweight. But man, it was an exciting fight.
Yeah, Oralbai is awesome, man. He's consistently entertaining. His fights have always delivered so far in the UFC, and this was just a vicious knockout. I feel like kind of the bigger story of this fight is just Jack Hermansson. Obviously, a number of losses in a row, a couple very, very, very bad knockouts. That's a scary one there. And the Gregory Rodriguez one earlier this year was also very scary. The big question, right, when you drop down a weight class, when you being one up for as many UFC fights, I think 20 plus as Jack was, will this pay off? He said he was not liking the inconsistency of his career, wanted to try something new, and this was the result. So I would hope to see him back at middleweight. I don't think anything was to his advantage there, but Oralbai, man, they have someone who is going to be here for as long as he wants to be, as long as his, durability can hold up, and is going to be a very exciting fighter at lightweight or welterweight, wherever he settles in. He wants to be a future champion. I don't know if his style can get him there, but many, many, many fun fights ahead in the lightweight division with the likes of Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez gone and Justin Gaethje on his way out. They need this type of action fighter, so bring it.
Yeah, right before he got KO'd, they said that Hermansson lost 15 pounds from one night to the next to make weight, and I was like, oh god, that's a lot, man.
Great idea.
A lot to be dehydrated for, just to get to your weight. He right up until the KO, he kind of looked okay, I guess, but as soon as he got hit, I was like, man, that's not a good KO following up, especially what RoboCop did to him. So you say Hermansson just go back up? Is your thoughts, Mike?
I think so. I mean, what would keep him down at welterweight here at this point?
Yeah, I agree. Waldo Cortez Acosta. That's Danny's boy. Danny, man, Gaziev's got some nice hands, and he took an early shot, and I thought, oh boy, he's gonna regret flying from Phoenix in the last 48 hours just to get lit up like that. And then all of a sudden, like he always does, he turned it back around. Boy's got some hands. 5 fights in 1 year. He wants a 6. That's too much in my opinion. 4 of those have been wins, a lot of bonuses. Good stuff.
Dude, this guy's awesome. And the heavyweight division sucks, right? Like, it sucked for quite a while. I can't remember the last time I was this excited about a contender, a prospect in the division. Like, we were talking about 155 and 170. We look at Michael Morales, we look at Ian Gary. Like, there's so many names. At heavyweight, like, I feel like we've just been doing a sort of legends fights for quite some time. Obviously, you can maybe throw in Tom Aspinall, who obviously became champion. But outside of him, like, really, what are the names that are kind of maybe Pavlovich Rice as well at one point when he had all those first round knockouts? But I don't know. This is different, man. Waldo just did a complete 180 to his career. It all started with that infamous eye poke. He just happened to literally be fighting the week after Tom Aspinall is unable to continue due to an eye poke, gets a lot of criticism. He ends up fighting his teammate and friend Ante Delija, gets eye poke, continues, knocks the guy almost immediately, and then takes this fight on short notice, pulls up into Qatar after an 18-hour flight, almost straight to weigh-ins, fights, knocks out the dude. He's already back in the States. And everything that he's doing outside of it, I think it's also great, even from putting the eye patch on Michael Bisping. That had me laughing. Dude, this guy's awesome. Salsa Boy's great. And I would like him to chill out. I think he's gambled a lot. He gambled by taking the fight after getting eye poked and taking some freebies there from Ante Delija. He gambled this past Saturday, obviously, by taking the fight on short notice. Chill out. We've seen it when you know the hand is hot and people want to keep going, and then they end up losing it all. So I think he should chill out and just wait and see what happens with Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane, because you know I think at this point he's probably deserving of a title fight. Obviously, we gotta figure out what happens there in the rematch. But yeah, this guy's awesome. I love Waldo. He's great.
How many mouths does he feed at home?
I think he's got like 5 or 6 kids.
Wow. Salsa Boy gets down.
Yeah.
By the way, help an old man out, but that was a shot at Aspinall, him putting on the eye patch. Here's why I ask, because why would Bisping participate? He's kind of been defending Aspinall. He's kind of his boy. So I thought, did he change his name? Is he El Pirata? I thought he was always Salsa Boy.
Yeah, he is Salsa Boy, but yeah, he's kind of making the most out of this whole situation. Again, like it literally is out of a movie. Like he's just making the most out of the situation because he did get pretty bad. His eye was pretty bad after getting eye poked, and he chose to continue, which we have to commend. Obviously, I don't think we should punish anybody that chooses not to if you're compromised. But for those that do, like, you know, respect, like it requires a lot of balls, right? So yeah, he's kind of just milking it, and we know how we can tell that Tom Aspinall's camp has really been struggling with the criticism post UFC 321, and Salsa Boy is just making the most of it and kind of just rubbing it in his face and you know, making sure that he's heard and you know, trying to instigate a fight. So again, I don't agree with it. I think it's, you know, kind of messed up, but like, you know, you got to do what you got to do to get your shot and get your shine in the UFC. So I completely understand what he's doing here. And I think it's quite smart. I think it's brilliant.
About a year and a half ago, I thought he was going to get iced by Robelli Despain. And here he is just doing his thing. He beat Despain. And like I said, he's won 4 of his last 5. Only lost it's to Sergey. That's not too bad. Steve Williams in the chat says, Waldo's been a blessing for the division. And I think him versus Volkov is the fight. Would you agree, Goes? Oh, well, give me a reaction to Salsa Boy's win, and then do you like that matchup for him?
I mean, dude, everything worked out for him, right? Like he took the fight on short notice. You could even say if he had lost, at least he'd still be in the good graces of the UFC. He did everything right. He got a bonus. What more do you want out of a guy like that? Now he kind of holds a little bit of a card, and if he can pull that card out, has anybody ever done a salsa dance on the White House lawn? I think I'd pull that move, dude.
Well, they're building the ballroom for it, that's for sure.
I'll say this. He better change his nickname. Salsa Boy has a funny story and all that, but I think El Pirata is great. One, because of everything that happened, but he's also from DR, an island in the Caribbean. So, you know, it makes sense. And one of my favorite soccer celebrations, which is very underrated. This is a very hardcore thing from Mallorca, Muriqui, whenever he scores in La Liga, you know, it's a mid-table team. His name is El Pirata, and he always celebrates like this. He points at the camera and goes, I think it's hilarious. So I'm all for that nickname change.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, this guy's had an amazing year. He could change his nickname and get away with it. I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. That's for sure. I'm going to stay with Goes here. Goes Kyoji Horiguchi successfully returned to the UFC, I think after 8 years or something like that. He got the win, he got the finish, and then the call out. You know, the Japanese are very respectful. So I think maybe him and Pantoja have always talked about this, and I don't think this is fanning the flames or anything, but yeah, he said he'll kick his butt. Your thoughts on the return of the Gooch?
Well, I mean, it's a guy that should have never left in the first place, right? I mean, it was really exciting. He's got decent skins on his walls. He always comes prepared for every fight. And yeah, when you look at the champ and just how destructive he's been, you want to see somebody who's maybe got a little bit more insight to the way this guy works. And, they're not afraid to face each other. And I think it would be a fun fight. I don't know if it happens sooner than later, but if it does, you can never count out Kyoji Horiguchi. It's just the champ is so disciplined and so good at what he does.
Yeah, and that was a big name he took down in Tagir Ulanbekov, so he didn't get a layup on the way back. Mike, what do you think, man? I think we need a champion, not just from Asia, but I think Japan, man. That's one of the the foundations of martial arts. What would you do with Horiguchi? I think the UFC can put him in some big fights here.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they went right into the Pantoja fight. We'll see what the champ thinks. I'm actually talking to him in like an hour or so we'll get his thoughts this afternoon, circle back to this YouTube channel, and that interview should be up sometime today. If Pantoja wins, what else do you do, right? Like, I think if Joshua Van wins, we're probably in automatic rematch territory with Pantoja, that he would deserve the shot. But if not, like, what's left to be done here? He had the performance, unreal, his first UFC performance bonus, I believe, and then calls out the teammate. We know historically Dana White has been very supportive of teammates fighting each other. Yeah. Usually it's the opposite of this. He was probably just had a huge smile on his face watching this. And yeah, I think it seems like all these people involved with this camp, both sides have had this discussion, have prepared for it. These guys want to make some money. They spar all the time in the gym. It's one scenario that they seem pretty comfortable with. So we'll see how that actually plays out in the fight, because we know sometimes when these teammates, these very good friends actually do fight, it can be not great. But I think these two would deliver, and yeah, happy to see it.
He's been in America for quite a while too, an American top team. He speaks really good English, so he could be a big star for these guys. Jay Do in the chat says UFC's been trying to get a Japan star for so long. Hustle Bone says facts, Mike Bond. Pants earned instant rematch, right?
Yeah, and imagine, imagine Joshua Van wins, Horiguchi got his win. We see Tatsuro Taira there fighting on the same night against Brandon Moreno. You could end up in a scenario with the Horiguchi versus Taira title fight and do that in Japan. That'd be big business for the UFC there.
We have to remember Manel Kopp too. I know he's had his problems with weight and pulling out of fights, but he's pretty exciting. He's kind of sitting there too, so he's got more pressure on him.
Yeah, he's fighting in a few weeks, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Your thoughts, Danny, on Horiguchi, if you want to say anything about the fellow Sofla guy like you?
He's awesome. I love Horiguchi. He's great. And he was an underdog entering, which I was surprised, and picked him to win. So that was a solid underdog pick there. And I saw a few people going with him the same. Look, this is great news for the division. As you guys mentioned, like, him in the picture just makes things more exciting. He carries this legacy because he fought with Demetrius Johnson, sort of that golden era of Joseph Benavidez, Demetrius Johnson, all these names. So he carries some of that and some of the nostalgia of that weight class that at the time was very unappreciated, and only the hardcores remember, the streets know. So yeah, it was awesome watching him win, and we'll see what happens. But certainly, he's really close to a title fight. Either one more or he can get next, depending on what happens in the next pay-per-view. But yeah, it's awesome. Horiguchi is great.
Yeah, folks, in a few days in the United States, it's Thanksgiving. We'll be addressing that later. I want to get mine in now. Thanks for giving us the anticipated thumbs up that on this video here that you're going to give us right now as we continue the show. We still got 20 minutes left. That thumbs up, it's the like button. It helps out any video on MMA Junkie. It helps us out a ton. So if you could click that, we would be greatly appreciated. Mike, you fighting the power, or do you want to chime in? Your mic's off.
Sorry. I was just reading the comment from Hustle Bones there about Tagir's very bad weight cut, and we heard Islam Makhachev talking about that, how it's like one of the worst he's ever seen, and it sounds like he might be going up to bantamweight next.
He should.
That was the vibe he was given.
Okay. All right, cool. Good to know. I like that guy. He's a good fighter, and But yeah, he got taken out there. Give me another highlight before we go on to the next topic. Danny, we'll stay with you from UFC Fight Night 260 fight out in out in Qatar. Another highlight, please.
I gotta go with Alexandre Topuria. That's Ilia Topuria's older brother. A lot of people think it's his younger brother. His older brother. Man, that guy's legit. He's got power. I mean, he's basically like a copy of Ilia Topuria. I mean, they're both very, very similar. I've watched a bunch of his fights before him joining the UFC, and he's got that little same step where he kind of does a little hop with his boxing. He's super, super skilled. And I don't know how much longer he's going to stick out 135 because he's quite big. But, dude, the UFC needs to get behind this guy and push him more. I mean, he's got a brother that's on his way to, GOAT status, someone that's, one of the biggest names and one of the most intriguing and one of the best fighters right now in the promotion. And the guy speaks 4 languages. The guy, he's a little more timid than Ilya and a little bit more shy. He's probably won't cut you a promo, but he's very, very skilled. And I'd love to see him against somebody ranked because at this point, like, why wait? Like the guy is ready. You watch that performance, and I mean, it's very, very impressive.
Hopefully, they put him on that card in Spain. Oh wait, that's PFL that beat you to it. UFC, come on, get your act together. You got some stars out there now. Get to Spain. You'll thank us later. Just like Paris.
France, they will never. They will never.
Party there.
They will never.
They'll never go to Spain.
I mean, it's gonna be a good while unless like they get paid like a site fee for it, but. We've seen it. Like, even the scenario that Mike like posed earlier, like, let's pretend that Kyoji Horiguchi becomes champion and then Tatsuro Taira just happens to stick around and be the #1 contender by that point. I don't even think they make that fight in Japan. It'll probably end up being in Vegas or like Utah. Who knows? Like, that's just look. And I was hopeful for Spain. I was one of the ones that,
every single city they go to for sure is site fee, no matter what.
I don't know if every single one, like for example, I don't know if like Vegas or like stuff like that, but
to a degree, they have like a deal with T-Mobile and stuff. Obviously, they're not getting ones for the Apex cards, but yeah, right. Pretty much everywhere now. I mean, they might be able to show some flexibility. Like, say they went to New Orleans for Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. They did get a site fee for that. Was it as much as they would have charged Chicago or whatever? I don't know that, but. Yeah, from the earnings calls and the TKO calls, and you hear Ari Emanuel talk about this stuff, it seems like that's the goal for pretty much any event at this point.
I think it was pretty clear to me when they decided to go to Baku, Azerbaijan, having Ilia Topuria as champion, and they went to Baku, Azerbaijan over Spain. They went to Baku, Azerbaijan over Hawaii. And like, I mean, how many champions have we had from Hawaii, or like the long history of tough, popular Hawaiian fighters? Like the UFC is interested in promoting the brand, not so much the fighters. And
what about just the fight night just to get things going?
There is some, right? I mean, like, I don't know what they got to go to Rio for, Charles Oliveira, that fight night that was down there. I think there is a degree of like, we need to go to Brazil once a year to preserve the integrity of the sport, to show that we're still, going back to those roots. But yeah, the big pay-per-views, they're not going to stack the deck, things like that. Yeah, it's tricky.
I knew Perth and Salt Lake City had something going on. I didn't know it was every single city, but wow. But get there with a fight night, just get these fans excited in a country that loves its sports fans. And then I guess you can circle back and maybe get a site fee. Who knows? But it'd be a damn shame, man, if these Topuria guys don't fight in their I guess adopted home country now. Anyways, another highlight, Mike, or goes. Let's go to you. We haven't heard from you in a while. Give me another highlight, then we'll finish up with Mike from UFC 265 Fight Night 265.
Abdul Rahman Yakev, dude. He made it look simple. He was a monster from the get-go, pure aggression, got the job done in 30 seconds. I mean, I've been talking longer than 30 seconds, and that guy got the fight done. And surely he got a bonus, right? Nothing.
There was like 8 finishers, and I think 4 didn't get bonuses.
Yeah, dude.
Crazy finishes for sure. But yeah, no, that guy made his mark. How about you, Mike? Who gave you
some shine for Luke Riley? Obviously, undefeated young prospect. He's been, doing the damn thing in Cage Warriors for a little while now, and then comes in there and tough matchup in Bogdangrad, but he just absolutely cleaned his clock with that counter punch. This guy has got some major potential. trains with Paddy Pimblett and all those guys. Vicious finish there. He's got a bright future, and it seems like he kind of managed the pre-UFC career pretty carefully and trying to get the experience he needed. So we don't see that all the time these days. UFC's snatching up guys, putting them on Contender Series at 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. This guy's 11-0 coming in. So I think that bodes well for his future. This is a tough division, but great way to start.
Shout out to Cage Warriors. Used to be on MMA Junkie about 15 years ago. They produced a lot of good talent over the years. Let's go to some other news aside from UFC Qatar. We've been calling it both. There was some other news this past week that we should discuss. Back to Mike. What did you think of Dana White sharing those stories of the run-ins from Francis Ngannou a few years back? Once before Ngannou versus Miocic won, or I should say it correctly, Miocic versus Ngannou won. Miocic was champ then. That's when Ngannou was huffing and puffing, and he faded out quickly. And then subsequently, there was a second incident where the time frame's a little fuzzy. All we know is it happened after a fight in which he did not get a $50K bonus. What did you think about when you heard that? That's a whole other level of like, hey, I don't like this guy, or we don't jive. We're not on the same wavelength.
Yeah. This one's kind of tough to address because it's obviously just kind of a he said situation right now. I do think it is telling that neither Francis Ngannou nor anyone around him on his team has come out and adamantly, vehemently denied this story. If there was no truth to it, you would think they would do that, because that's a pretty serious accusation to say, this guy put his hands on Dana White and maybe to a lesser degree Hunter Campbell. So yeah, not a great look. There was obviously a lot of heat and bad feelings between those two sides. The thing that I found interesting coming out of it, someone tagged me on Twitter of like a press conference video from after Ngannou beat Alistair Overeem at that event. And on that card, they gave out 2 fight of the night bonuses, one to Justin Gaethje versus Eddie Alvarez, the other one to Alex Oliveira versus Yancy Medeiros. No performance of the night bonus on that card for Francis Ngannou's knockout of Alistair Overeem, which is one of the greatest ever. And I asked Dana at the post-fight press conference, like, you gave out 2 fight of the night. Sometimes when you've done this, you've given out a performance of the night. Are you going to take care of Francis? And he was like, yeah, we'll take care of him. The last thing I want is that guy coming to my office, looking for a bonus. So at the time, no one thinks of this, but now you go back and look at that clip of, maybe he was referencing something there. So I thought that was kind of interesting in the fallout. I would like to think Dana would not just completely fabricate this story, because again, disprovable, pretty bold thing to say, egg on your face if it gets proven wrong, all that stuff. So I'll still kind of sit here and reserve opinion a little bit till Francis, if he ever does, give his side. But if all this is true, I don't know how anyone can sit here and be like, I'm surprised Dana White doesn't want to work with this guy. The way he spoke of him, the tone, all that stuff you can take issue with, but there's clearly something that goes deeper than the surface here.
Yeah, and for those that haven't heard it and you think it was maybe horseplay, here's what Dana White said. I should have read this first. I apologize. But he told, this is the first story. He says Ngannou told him, let me tell you what's going to happen. This is his quote. Let me tell you what's going to happen. When this fight's over, you're going to book me a private plane to Paris. White laughed it off, like, or whatever. And Ngannou insisted, I'm not joking. You're going to give me a private plane back to Paris. Now, that's the fight where he lost to Miocic. He got really, really tired. And that's, I think he was in the process of moving to Vegas, and he went back to Paris, and he just didn't handle it right. He lost the fight. So that's that one. And then he told of another incident where, like Mike said, there was no bonus for him, and he was angry about it. So this is back, I guess, in the UFC PI. Dana White says, quote, he grabs me by my shirt and pushes me back in my office. Dana told him, dude, get your fucking hands off me. And he continues, I could see in this guy's face and in his eyes and the way he was acting who this guy really fucking is. Apparently, Francis Ngannou, Hunter Campbell also got in this and grabbed one of them by the collar and pulled him back and said, we're not done talking yet, when they were trying to cool things off. So this is, I think, a little bit more than horseplay, at least the way Dana White's explaining it. All I can remember in any form of a pushback, because I'm not a Ngannou cheerleader or anything, but I still remember before he signed with PFL, Hunter was taking him to dinner, and because Dana wanted nothing to do with it, and they felt like they were getting close, but it didn't happen. Do you do that with someone who you want to really part with? You know, I don't know. Danny, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, it's tough to say.
We only have one side.
Yeah. I also think it's very telling, or we'll see if it changes, after we do this video, but that's been out already for a few days. And the fact that Ngannou hasn't come out and said anything, and we've seen Dana White like say something and then Ngannou come back immediately on Twitter, especially when the negotiations were going on, completely disprove it, right? Or at least say his side of the story. He hasn't said much here. And to me, that signifies someone that doesn't kind of want to agitate the wasp's nest, right? Like just kind of wants to like let it go over. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. I also don't think Dana White would make something up like this because it's like a pretty serious allegation. Could it maybe be a little bit
very
embellished,
detailed too?
Or maybe made seem a little worse than what it actually was. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, for those that were saying like, oh, maybe Francis Ngannou could return. Francis Ngannou has talked about a return. After hearing those comments, yeah, he's done. He's never fighting for the UFC. Not that I had high hopes, but I think it's very telling on where things will stay at in terms of their relationship. But yeah, the timelines kind of make sense. Mike mentions that presser video that I didn't know about. I think it's possible. Yeah, but again, we don't know, right? So certainly very, very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Goes, you want to chime in on this from what we've heard there on the one side of just Dana White?
They laid it out perfectly. Sometimes in the right scenario, silence is louder than words. And that's just odd that we're getting silence from a guy who normally does pick up the phone and type something out or call someone. We're not hearing anything. And I mean, all I can say is my interactions with Francis have always been positive, but I don't see Dana White as a person that would just make this up randomly.
Yeah. And speaking of Francis Ngannou, goes, did he drop the ball? Because Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua was official. And I don't know if you guys have heard the numbers. Have you guys heard the numbers? Where they're both going to make $92 million each? That can't be right. But I actually went and started looking, and other websites were saying it's going to be a big purse. It's going to be big on December 19th, I think, in Florida. Holy cow, man. That's a lot of money. It's not an exhibition. They're going to touch each other. Your thoughts go on Paul versus Joshua.
Well, I mean, look, he's dabbled in boxing at the highest level, and I don't think you need to, in combat sports with his experience, I don't know that you need a full camp for someone like Jake Paul. You saw them in front of each other, but man, Joshua, he's forgotten more about boxing than both of these guys have learned in their careers, in their short careers. That's going to be very bad news for Jake Paul. If I were Francis, I would have rolled the dice and done it. Why not?
Hell yeah, that wasn't disrespectful at all, man. 92 million,
Paul,
if that's true.
Like, I know his brother's in WWE, but he's the one that lives the WWE storyline. Even if he loses, he still wins. But he might get his head detached from his body, dude.
If that's true, now Jake Paul, when they ask him, what the hell are you doing boxing Anthony Joshua, wouldn't you, for 92 million? I mean, holy cow, Danny, you were there. Give us some insight, man. That was a big size difference, but this thing's going down. It's a pro fight, right?
Yeah, it's a professional heavyweight boxing bout. There are a few things, I think Joshua has to make like 240 pounds, but after that he can rehydrate and weigh in as much as he wants, like on the day of weighing, of course. It's 8 rounds. It's not 10 or 12 like most professional bouts. So there's that. But again, at heavyweight, and when Anthony Joshua, I don't know if you really need 10 or 12 rounds. I don't know if it makes a difference. But yeah, being there, I was at the presser on was it Friday? It was surreal, man. Like it almost felt like it was very dreamy, like just being there. And I was just literally in that same building, literally in the same spot where I put my camera like a few weeks ago, watching him go at it with Tank Davis, who is, smaller than me. and then just watching Anthony Joshua. By the way, when you're like in front of Anthony Joshua, this is the first time I see him in person. The dude's massive. Like his hands are huge. His forearms are like the size of like a regular thigh of like somebody. Like it's crazy. The guy is huge, and you know, all I could think was like, man, massive respect to Jake Paul. I know he gets a lot of shit. He gets a lot of criticism. I don't dislike Jake Paul. I think I actually like him, but I don't like so much the culture that he brings around him with all the influencers and the type of his fan base and stuff. But like, if you ever have anything bad to say about Jake Paul, like you know, you can say whatever you want, but you can't say this guy doesn't have vision and balls, because like his 11th professional fight and he's fighting Anthony Joshua. Like, this is insane. This is insane. And I get even the Tank Davis is ridiculous. It's crazy, but Tank Davis is way smaller. So you go, okay, there's some compensation there, but literally on paper, there's not a single advantage that Jake Paul carries into this fight. Not even one. Everything's a disadvantage. So, shit, I don't know, man. I'm really intrigued about this fight, actually. And I agree with you. You said at the top, Ngannou dropped the ball here. It could have been him. It would have made more sense. Big payday.
Jeez.
Also, I don't know what his situation is with PFL. I don't know if he's even allowed
That
to compete
is
at this point.
holy. That's a big number. Mike, you've interviewed Jake Paul many times. Years ago, did you think we'd ever be talking about this one?
No, not this one, but I thought it was crazy when he said Nate Diaz was going to be somewhere there before he had even fought Ben Askren, right? In like his second fight. So nothing surprises me in terms of him shooting for the stars. I don't know what type of pressure there was to make something that's going to capture global interest after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. And he's having to kind of put himself out there maybe more than he wanted to with this particular fight, but you got to jump all the way in to maybe come through on all these deals you made and stuff like this. But Jake Paul strikes me as the type of guy that he's not going to take this as a devastating loss he's going to carry with him for the rest of his life in a negative way. Like, Jake Paul strikes me as the type of guy, he'll make a tattoo bet with Anthony Joshua at the fight week press conference. And if he gets knocked out, he'll gladly tell his kids in 20 years, I fought a 2-time undisputed heavyweight champion in my 11th fight. And it's just like a thing he can, as part of his story, that it's fun. One of his 20 tattoos was on those things. It's just another crazy thing Jake Paul did in his lifetime. So in that sense, he's probably looking at it as a win-win. And if something crazy happens, who the hell knows? That's a life-changing, game-changing, perspective-changing thing. I tend it's going to be more likely. I was in Saudi Arabia when Francis Ngannou got deaded by Anthony Joshua at 5 o'clock in the morning. I sense it's probably going to be an outcome more similar to that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Crazy.
He won't need a tattoo. He'll have a scar. That'll be a good enough story.
I'm like concerned for his like well-being. Like, dude.
I think he'll be okay. I mean, he's a strong, in shape young guy. I suspect he can handle a vicious knockout at this stage of his life.
Ngannou took 2 knockdowns and then the vicious KO. I think if I'm ever in there, just give me the vicious KO. Like, I don't
or
need
maybe just don't get up
counts.
after the first knockdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Take your 10 count in your paycheck and call.
Stumble around like Roddy Piper and just face plant straight in. Mike, tell them real quick in 30 seconds in the chat. Let's reward them. They asked Moreno versus Tyra. What are your thoughts on that one?
Super interesting litmus test for both guys at the stage of their career. Brandon Moreno, he wants to get back there. He's looked solid in his past couple fights, but is he still that title guy? And this is Tatsuro Taira's chance to show what he's all about. Is he a serious contender for this belt?
There you go, Paul. You got an answer. Give us a like and a subscribe if you don't mind. What platform is this on? Quay is asking. He's asking about Paul and Josh. It'll be on Netflix. Real quick, we're going to blast through this. I promise you, we will get it done. PFL had some big announcements. PFL Champion Series 5 in 2026. Usman Nurmagomedov versus Alfie Davis, and Ramazan Kuramagomedov versus Shamil Musayev.
And Dakota Dacheva versus
Dakota Dacheva, February 7th in Dubai. They're going to Dubai, Pittsburgh, Chicago, one other one I can't remember, to start things off. We have it all on MMA Junkie for all you PFL fans. They're still on ESPN. Madrid was the other one. Yeah, what was I thinking? And lastly, guys, it is Thanksgiving. Something you're thankful for personally or in MMA or both. Real quick, Danny.
I'm going to go with refereeing. I still think it's far from perfect, but I think this year we saw referees kind of start going in the right direction, taking points away for immediate fouls, obviously fouls that that take a toll on the fighter. There's been very good things, and usually there's not much. Usually, like, all the headlines is criticism, right? But we've actually seen some very good refereeing, and not only that, but also response from the fan base demanding and putting pressure on these commissions. Again, I don't think it'll change overnight, but I do think it helps the fact that every time something crazy happens, there's a shitstorm on Twitter, and people make sure their voice is heard. And I feel like some referees are paying attention, even though they might not speak on it. But we've seen some great calls recently, so thankful for the positive direction that we're going.
Goes, how about you? What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful that I no longer have to hear that ESPN Plus theme song. The last time I hear it, I think I'm going to pour champagne over my head, dude, and celebrate. I did not like that era. Hopefully Paramount Plus comes and brings it strong.
All right. You didn't like them on ESPN at all, or just that song?
I didn't like that app. I didn't like the way any of that works, man.
That app sucks.
It's terrible. They never made one adjustment.
We should get the UFC fights on YouTube now, because I consume Paramount Plus through YouTube. Like, I watch all the games there. So it should be very, very easy to get to. Dude, signing in and out of that ESPN thing was hell.
Yeah. We'll finish up with Mike, but real quick, Duke, Gable Stevenson, great shout out there. We don't have time to discuss, but Stevenson, yeah.
There's no end.
He's on the front page. We covered it yesterday, so check it out. We do cover it here at MMA Junkie. He looked like a beast. Nice left hook finish for him. Mike, what are you thankful for?
Well, Thanksgiving in Canada was last month, but I will humor you guys with a Thanksgiving note here. We'll just say thanks to the fighters who are so gracious with their time. I think us four here probably do the lion's share of the video interviews for MMA Junkie. So obviously the fighters need to give their time to make that happen. So appreciate all of them who are always so willing, and the managers and all that stuff. And of course, everyone out there who watches the content, because if you guys aren't consuming it, it is pointless.
Yep, I am thankful for our audience every week here on Spinning Back Clique, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks for spending some time with us. Thanks for putting up with the likes and the subscribe, please. But it just kind of helps the YouTube algorithm, helps the show grow. You sharing it would also help as well. But I want to give a special shout out to Cold Coffee and Abby Subhan. There are guys behind the scenes that really, really make us shine, make the website shine. Sometimes they just don't get the love because they're not in front of camera, but they are monsters. They are the best at what we do. All of our colleagues on MMA Junkie are really, really special to me. We're the best in the business, no doubt. And that's why I have no problem telling people, check out the app, check out the website, check out all the shows, like, subscribe, because we're out there hustling for you guys. I hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving weekend here in the United States. Everywhere else, of course, have a nice week. We'll see you all in 7 days on the next Spinning Back Clique. Take care. Go out and be a champion.